Hi, I'm Hugh Whitmore. I'm the author of the Three Madelines novel series for middle graders, and today's presentation is part of my Encouraging Young Authors series, and I'm talking about the new novel I'm writing, Book 4 in the Three Madelines novel series. I'm going to be giving updates every 2 weeks so you can get an idea of how an author goes through writing a novel and how I put the lessons that I teach into my writing. They're not just academic or things to think about, they're things that actually take place as you write a novel. So I've been at this about 2 weeks, and in the 2 weeks, the first thing I've started with is I plotted the novel. It's called plotting, and I put down all my plot points, and that comes from the story structure lectures I give. I have 2 of them. I give a basic story structure lecture where it's 3 points for a beginner. But when you're writing an entire novel, which for me is 55 to 60,000 words, you're going to need more plot points. And so I have a 10-point story structure that I use for my full novels. And you can also see that on my YouTube channel. I write those out on a Word document, 1 to 10, and that way I know where the emotional journey of my main character will take her all throughout. And so I have a shell of a story there, essentially, a plot, all the points. Next, I start with an ending. I have an idea where it's going to go. I recommend this because first of all, you're going to be thinking of this in your head before it ever gets on paper, or you should be. And if you come up with the basic things for a story, some characters, whatnot, then you want to think, where is my main character going to end up? Well, I know my ending, so I kind of write that down. It doesn't have to be perfect, just where it's going to be, so that you can direct your main character toward that ending all the way through and right towards it. So I start with an ending, and then I also start with, one of my main teachings is on the 5 main things of a novel: plot, setting, characters, conflict, and theme. Well, I start with a theme. And that's the main emotional journey of the main character. So I have a theme in mind and I have an ending. So then I start to fill in the other things. Well, plot, that's the main thing or things that happen to your main character. So that's where she'll be for me and where she's going and where she'll be originally, where she'll move to, because I have a change of scenery in this novel. They're going to be in a different place than the previous 3 novels. And so the steps, the plot, I think this out and I write little bits all through around the plot points. And then setting, I know where the setting's going to be, but I have to move my character there, and you have to do it well with there's got to be a reason these things move forward, and you have to write that adeptly and make it interesting for the reader, moving towards the setting. Characters, now the third one, plot, setting, characters. Characters, that would be harder for you if you're writing your first novel because you have to come up with characters, but I did this already. I have my characters in place. I do have a lesson on picking characters, choosing characters, and writing good characters, but you have to come up with them. And the characters is mainly your main character because you have to focus relentlessly on that main character. But I have 2 strong supporting secondary characters, and then I have to come up with all these other characters because it's going to be kind of a busy place where they're going, and there's actually going to be a lot of other characters. So I have to come up with names. You have to come up with unique names you feel comfortable with. You have to come up with personality types. You have to come up with an antagonist. That's a person, and I have that sort of in my mind. I have some notes written down. So plot, setting, characters, conflict. What are the main conflicts? I've come up with those because my ending is a conflict. I have to build in how my antagonist is a conflict, how other people are conflicts in the novel. So I'm working on conflicts. And then, so that's plot, setting, characters, conflict, and I've already picked a theme. So that's the 5 main things. And I start to weave those in around my 10 plot points, which is how you get started. You get a framework with your plot points. You take your 5 main things, and you start then, at least I do, I start writing a little here, a little there. And so at this point, 2 weeks in, I've got about 5,000 words down. That may sound like a lot, but there's a couple, maybe three scenes so I've got about two to 3,000 words that are actually dialogue and scenes and beats and all the little touches of writing in there. But I don't really have, it's not really 5,000 solid words of the novel, because I've got like, well, she goes here and does this, and this person does this, and if this happens, then that. This is how a novel comes together. It's a piece by piece, block by block building that you put together. And then as you go along and you realize where you are and what you're going to do more and more, then some of your notes become dialogue, and then your dialogue becomes even better, and it starts to blend all together. And I don't work linearly. I don't go from chapter 1 to chapter 50 or whatever I'm going to end up with. I bounce around. Like I said, I start with an ending, and now I've got a beginning, and then I've got a scene about a third of the way through. So it's all coming together. It takes a lot of work. It's very difficult. You sit there and you really kind of scratch your head a lot, because you're wondering, well, if this person did this in the end and they can't do this in the beginning, they have to do this over here. And it's very complex to write a full novel. So as you go about the process, do your architecture, build the plot points, work around them, work around your 5 main things, be patient with yourself. Don't be afraid to go back and say this wasn't right and rewrite it. Take your time and write a good novel. And then we'll get to the other points and how it develops over time. But this is 2 weeks in, about 5,000 words, and I'll hone it and I'll get back to you in 2 weeks.